This podcast is rated R for restricted. Under 17 requires accompanying parent or adult guardian. Mission success.
Hey guys, did you guys Barbenheimer? Did you Barbenheimer?
I think I would have
tomorrow.
You're gonna Barben?
Yeah.
Oh, I Barbened on Monday.
I need to Barben.
You need to Barben.
It's all Barbie. So that because this is a cultural phenomenon right now.
It is.
It's hilarious, but
it's odd and funny.
But it's at least people are going to see films in a theater, which is
two of them specifically.
I'm very supportive of it. So. We have to be able to see Barbie now just so we can make a judgment call and which is better.
It's a very American situation going on here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got a biopic about the bomb, and then we got a bright movie
Barbie.
about dolls. You know, that's America right there.
That on paper sounds totally ridiculous and should never get made is a smash hit, which is
right.
I remember joking about for some reason. I don't know if it was because we were following, it was like a follow-up on Ryan Gosling or whoever, but just finding out that the Barbie movie was like in production, and I just thought it was ridiculous.
Be like, what are you talking about?
Right. What? But I don't know.
And then the pictures started coming out, and I was like, oh, hell yeah. This looks weird.
Yeah.
John, did we check to see if you're recording?
No, but I am.
Wow, look at that.
I'm good.
Good job, John.
I'm recording too.
That's right.
Nice.
Don't be fooled, though. I still need help.
Don't be fooled. It doesn't. It's not actually recording.
It's an accident. No, I'm just saying it's an accident. I did the right thing this time without prompting. So I still need aggressive prompting. So don't get.
Don't worry. I'm not going to lose a 7-year-long lesson in one day. Don't you worry.
I know. I'm sorry. Just I can't be trusted.
It's true.
So we all watched Oppenheimer. This movie's brand new. It's making. I think right now it's. This is a Wednesday, August 2nd. Let me actually look this up because its numbers are ridiculous. It's on the heels of Barbie, which is out. It made on a Tuesday $7 million, which is like a decent opening night on a Thursday for any other movie. It's been out for 2.5 weeks.
I mean, I went last night and it was pretty. You remember that picture I sent? Well, it wasn't that for much longer.
It filtered
in. Yeah, it filtered in and filled up, except for basically the front. But the entire, normal section was full.
It's at about $425 million right now and going extremely strong. Only out for 2 weeks. Had a budget of $100 million. They say there was an article that said it needed to break $400 million to be profitable. We can get into why that might be the case because usually you only double the production budget.
I mean, with all the fucking studs in this, I mean, how could you not know? They must have been paying out the nose.
Point. Yeah.
But John, it's your turn to go first, and why don't you paint us a picture of your rare little trip to the theater?
Oh, it's nice. We have a little Chateau Theater in Rochester. You go and get a nice beer on tap and go and sit there in the recliner chair. They've got the electric recliners, seats, assigned seating and everything. Lots of legroom. So it was nice and comfortable. And then I watched the movie.
And you stayed awake the whole time?
I did stay awake. I've got maybe the 3 primary criticisms, I think. Sort of.
You're going to go straight for the negative?
I am. Well, yeah, because
you have to start with the negative.
If I want to go with the positives, can I go with the positives? I can say Robert Downey Jr., awesome, unrecognizable to me in this kind of role. This may be how stupid I am. I did not know it was him. I kept looking until after the film was in. It's like,
no,
because I am stupid.
That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
I don't
I'm
believe
stupid.
it.
I swear to God, I kept looking for, where's the quirky, like, smart ass character coming around? Because that's where Robert Downey Jr. is going to be. I was waiting for I thought maybe he's going to be Einstein. So I didn't look at who was billed as who before coming in here. So I was waiting for some smart ass character to show up, because then it'd be like, oh, there's Robert Downey Jr. Because lately that's all he does. Or maybe that's all he mostly ever does, right? He's always Iron Man, his Tony Stark character, which is who he is. Or at least when he's given speeches or whatever, he has the same mannerisms. So I thought he was fantastic. I thought Matt Damon was fantastic. I thought I've not seen him be this good and be not Matt Damon for a long time. Maybe not since Mr. Ripley. I don't know. So Emily Blunt was really good. I think fine.
She was fine. Her character was not good. How about that?
Her character was
I
useless.
think,
I feel like they must have cut out a lot from her character.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the problems is Oppenheimer himself is the least interesting person on screen at all times.
Disagreed.
I do. I think he's just kind of flat. He's got that Ed Harris blue-eyed stare, and that's about it. All he's got that gaunt look and that blue-eyed stare, and that's all he's got going for him the whole time. The other characters are far more interesting. I mean, partially too. I mean, you got Einstein there and Niels Bohr, all these really famous physicists coming in and out of the picture. Even his buddy was more interesting too. The other guy that was like when he was teaching, sort of the guy across the hall. Forget what his name was.
Val Kilmer.
Val Kilmer-ish
from the 90s.
The Jewish friend was also more. I mean, any of those guys were more charismatic than he, more interesting. I don't know if it's the dialogue or whatever, but to me, he was like the least interesting character. And I don't know if it's just because of the lines or the acting or the way it was directed. But it was. Yeah, that, and then it's just Nolan's ham-fistedness when he's trying to do something artistic is really annoying.
What?
So I mean,
when?
So
I mean that whole opening.
Yeah, in particular though, the scene where he's talking about having an affair with this other woman, and they're showing him naked, showing him actually sitting there having sex as he's telling this, so his wife can watch, is so ham-fisted.
John, I have to say that was one of the things I definitely thought came out of nowhere with no setup, nothing, just like the most brutal, all of a sudden in your face, like fourth wall, like. It broke the fourth wall.
It was
looking
weird.
directly at you, and then all of a sudden, there's like, when was this like a I don't know, like a supernatural film?
It's going art house or something.
He's all of a sudden, I know.
It's like we're just going to get fantastical here. And another movie that really was relying on the depth of its characters might allow the emotions and the characters to really be front and center in that sort of moment to really show the strain that their relationship is under, what their relationship's like. But instead, you've got him having sex with her on a chair as he's talking about it. And that just was wacky. Just wacky.
It just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I like that it came out of nowhere. In other Nolan movies, he'd like foreshadow that, or he'd use it like a bunch of times, or he'd tell you how the movie was going to work and how the narrative tricks were going to work.
I think if he had used it maybe twice, it would have been fine.
I liked it how he did it once.
But he only did it once.
It seemed strange.
But it didn't fit for me with the rest of the movie.
I can see that because it was. That's not typically what you see in movies, right? They give you.
Well, not only that, but this movie did not have that kind of tone. It did not have that kind of.
Horror. It was like a horror.
Like TC said, but it also broke. That was a completely different perspective that the film had not done since and didn't do afterwards.
Oh, it did in different ways.
Sense,
I mean, he's an imaginative dude. You have like the overlays of him imagining all of the quantum type stuff.
Him.
Oh, I guess so.
Not her.
Yeah,
but it was
she's the one imagining.
But it was him in that scene.
Yeah, but she's the one imagining. The perspective has changed, right?
Was it? It was Emily Blunt. You're saying?
Yeah, it was her perspective watching him.
I thought it might be his perspective
because it switched. The camera switched directly to where she was
sitting.
Well,
it rotated around to her, but I thought he was thinking that this is how, since he's having to tell about the affair, that he's thinking about the affair and he's thinking about how she's hearing the affair.
No, because they cut from her staring at him dead in the corner, from the corner to the POV and then back again. So it didn't. If anything, it was.
I agree. I felt like it was her perspective too, which also
and
added
if that
to
wasn't
the
supposed to
of it.
be the case, then okay.
Then maybe that's a little better. You're right, Denny. Though it can't. If we're going from his perspective,
I thought the entire movie was basically his perspective. I thought every single scene he was in.
Right.
I think he wasn't in every single scene.
No, it wasn't, because they switched to the B story. And it was complete over.
That's true. The flash forwards, but like when they were talking about Oppenheimer's story in the past, like the entire past story, I think every scene he was in, and my thought of, I felt like we were just following him.
And then like third part of the movie, it's more the Robert Downey Jr. character's perspective as he's having his Oscar moment and all of that, right? So
his time on screen, getting his screen.
He's having his Mark Ruffalo
I hate to say it, but
from,
like my jaded self, all I thought about was, he's got to have his minutes.
Yeah.
He's gonna get that in there.
I was sitting there watching
20
it. I was like,
seconds.
of course we got to fucking sit here now at the end when I got to piss like a motherfucker and get his whole goddamn story. I swear to God, I saw some girl come in at like hour 2.5 with popcorn, big, large bucket of popcorn, a big soda. I was like, we better not have that much left. I have to pee so bad.
That's about when I went for the popcorn too.
We had that much left.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have
Naomi almost knocked over 2 old people trying to get out because she didn't want to leave because the movie was so good. When the movie was done, she almost knocked 2 people over because they were
so bad.
Oh, that's great.
I gotta go. Yeah,
oh, nice. So I'll have two more general things to say. So the other thing is so 2 more things, and then I'll let you guys talk about how wonderful it all was. So one,
did you not like it?
No, not really. So the climax of the film was a bit of a letdown if we think of the climax as the test explosion. And I'd heard sort of things like, oh, Christopher Nolan had to use practical effects, and it was, he refused to use digital, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be amazing. And I was just kind of like, sort of when it happened. I was like, okay. It wasn't, I thought there was going to be something more impressive, and it wasn't quite as impressive as I thought it was.
It wasn't a Marvel movie, that's for sure.
It was, I know, but it wasn't necessarily Interstellar either or whatever. Huge visual set piece. And I don't know what you would have done with it, but I somehow expected to be a little bit, something was going to like really go, wow, but nope, it didn't. It wasn't really. It was maybe it was trying to be more realistic in a sense that, but it wasn't. I think one of the really big problems with the film is that it's really trying to tell like 3-4 different stories. Yes. I think that like any of these things and any of these stories is immense. And then they're like, moving along. Physics, lots of physics things. All right, moving along. Bomb development. We're developing bomb. Moving along. Dropped it on Japan. That's that's a moral quandary. Oh, wait, moving along. Now we've got this mystery sort of thing that we're going to like do where he's like been double crossed by his country. Moving along. Yeah. Then we're sorry.
Oh, and by the way, his wife is a badass. Moving on, real quick.
Watch out, his girlfriend killed herself. Oh, who cares? Keep going.
Right. So it seems like this would have made a pretty damn good 5-season streaming miniseries or something like that in terms of like there's
I told
so
my girlfriend
I
think it must be like 5 hours long and they had to cut it down to 3.
Right, maybe because
there's just a lot of missing shit in there.
Maybe
it seems like
it's just so much. You could have made a full feature film about any of these parts. And it might have felt more coherent. I felt like the last third of it, which again, it's still interesting how he's sabotaged and brought into the whole Red Scare stuff and all of that. And it's interesting, but it just seems like, I don't know. It's just like after they develop the bomb, they drop it on Japan, they start to be like, oh, maybe that was bad. Anyway, now we're here. Now we're going to talk about we're going to do this little mystery twist plot thing where it was him the whole time and it just felt like, I don't know. It just didn't feel like very cohesive in terms of like what was going on. I know they're just like rattling off all this stuff, but that was another reason I just didn't feel like the movie like held together because there was so much, and each of those things is huge. Like I'm not going to really say I understand any of it, but I've got like 2 or 3 books I can recommend that I was kind of browsing. As far as like the physics stuff is awesome.
You're just too much of a nerd to appreciate this type of popcorn kind of absorb it in 3 hours, an entire 25 years of history.
I think it's awesome. It's like a Michael Bay film, but more intellectual, right? It's kind of like which is kind of cool. I think that's
how dare you?
I hope you never run into Christopher Nolan.
Have you ever seen a Michael Bay movie? Have you seen a Michael Bay movie?
Yeah. And Michael Bay likes to say, like, I just make movie for horny 13-year-olds or something like that is what he's proud to say. And that's fine, And this is a little. This
and
is more
what is this for?
Pseudo-intellectual
30-year-olds? Is that what the demographic is for this one?
I think it's aging teenagers that are now 40. Fair. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't have to say pseudo-intellectual.
It's teenagers that didn't grow up and all of a sudden they're 40.
Yeah, I don't want to be insulting about it either. I think it's fine, but I think we've seen so much better stuff. But there's better acting, better like structure, better dialogue, better visuals. In many different ways that I see this and it's like
better visuals.
I didisagree with a lot of what you're saying, John. Pretty hard.
Yeah.
That's fine.
The acting, the dialogue, I saw it in 70 millimeter. Yeah.
It
was awesome.
It was good.
It was really
pretty impressive.
I guess so. Maybe that makes all the difference.
It's going to be, in my opinion, it's going to be this and Dune for cinematography, dueling it out.
Oh,
because I thought this movie was fantastic.
Maybe the 70 millimeter helps. I don't know. And maybe, again, I'm just tired and old and grouchy. But
that's what it sounds like to me.
I don't think so. There's a lot I agree with.
I need to fix that.
There's a lot I agree
I'm sorry.
I honestly, so everything you're saying, you're not, misrepresenting the movie. It does
I'm
go
not
through
saying I hated
lot.
it either. I'm not saying I hated it. It was horrible. I wanted just more from it.
You thought the dialogue and the acting was bad. The dialogue and the acting carried me through every single second of the movie. I thought the acting was fantastic, and every scene of dialogue, which there was a lot of, where they were just talking two characters between each other in different scenarios. Like, all the scenarios looked great. All of the train shots looked fucking real. Whenever they were in those,
I didn't say the dialogue was bad. I just said we've seen better, and I still think that you're right.
So you're comparing this against the best movies ever.
I know. Well, that's where this one supposedly is, right? It's
it's better than City Lights, wasn't it?
I thought that's what we were watching, Denny. I thought it was the
I thought for a 3-hour-long biopic movie that I was totally interested in every single scene of just dialogue. That is pretty top notch.
Really?
Every single one. Yeah.
Oh,
but
God,
I was not.
Not me.
I knew zero of this history. I was really interested.
I thought there was a lot of horns behind really bad parts.
Horns?
To try and keep it. Yeah, there was like the suspenseful horns.
Oh, I like
when
the
they
soundtrack.
were doing like bare minimum shit.
I like the
and
soundtrack.
then they overused some of that to build up the tense part, even though there wasn't anything tense.
I thought it was.
And then
it
we
worked
had to
on
sit
me.
for.
It literally worked on me.
We had to sit there for another fucking 30 minutes.
Well,
sometimes
and it's
to
also
get to
really cool.
tense.
It's a whole set of it's some history and some people that maybe nobody's thought about this stuff or knew about all these things, and so it's great. Like, in the sense that there's and from what
that's a double-edged sword, isn't it, John?
I know.
I didn't know most of this story, and I can't say that I know anything about the story now either.
That's fair too. But from what I'm
not sure I trust what the movie's telling me at all times.
I had some issues with some of the things. I'm like, there's no way that happened. But then I read about it and I was like, okay, it did happen. But the way the movie did it was kind of like, this is goofy. Anything with Truman in it, with the Gary Oldman Truman, that was Gary Oldman. Did you recognize him as Truman in a fat suit? His scenes were super cartoony. Like, the dialogue he had, those were like
almost like cheesy. Like, it's like
those are one of like two. I have two complaints in this movie. That's one of them. The Truman scenes seemed out of place and weirdly cartoony, and the line of like, "You're a big crybaby" or whatever. That's a true to life.
Get this crybaby out of my. Don't let this crybaby back in my office.
Real line, famous line. The way it was done, I was just like, there's no way he could have said that. That wasn't delivered in a way where I believe it. So I mean, that's not great. But also the second thing is the women characters in this movie kind of get a real short end of a stick type of situation. Seeing as, like, especially his wife, her character should be a very important part of this movie. She's in a lot of it, but we don't get her character development. There was like a jump in time where she's supposed to be an intellectual. She becomes an alcoholic, like a shell of a person who's just kind of angry all the time. And she's telling him to do things.
He's cheating on her all the time. So she's just...
Right, but we don't know that in the movie, though. I didn't get that.
I also didn't get that, like, her being angry. It just seemed like she was just angry for the sake of being angry. But later on, we realized that, she's smarter than him, and she can, like, predict how politics work, and he should be listening to her and everything. There was just this whole, like, gap between
it was messy.
her being an older, like,
very consistent,
future predicting, smart, sassy conversationalist, I don't know, like, political person, to her just being a nobody alcoholic when he was cheating on her. I don't know. That character seems like it could have been a lot better. I thought Emily Blunt did a fine job, but the character arc didn't make any sense.
I think they just ran out of screen time, and they must have had more of her shot, because it seemed like, for sure, Denny, I agree. It seemed like it was just all of a sudden there was a hole in her character. It was like we started knowing this person, and then all of a sudden it was like she was a totally different person, but we didn't see the change. All we know is that it changed. So I agree there. It was
I didn't understand the suicidal.
The Florence Pugh thing also. Like, they're supposed to have some really deep relationship. He's supposed to be very affected by her suicide, but I didn't feel anything when she killed herself.
But they barely had her and him actually develop anything. Right.
But again,
the only thing they had, which I think they were banking on, was the nudity. They had the nudity scene. So they were trying to bank and actually have like intimacy.
Serious.
Right? They were trying to show some kind of intimacy.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was right, because the discussion they were having wasn't intimate. It was very much like, fuck you. So, like, and the intimate in the same of like we're having a tough conversation, but it's not like they were developing a love between them that we were seeing. So I agree that there was just a lot of this stuff that wasn't adding up as far as like coherent story, but was very visually stunning sometimes. I'm very mixed on this one.
But I mean, the other characters were so secondary in terms of the story that like the shallow-ish relationships that he had with him made sense. Like his next door neighbor teacher, I bought that as like a realistic relationship because he wasn't sleeping with them and he wasn't married to them. You know, like all these other characters weren't his wife or his mistress. I feel like that relationship, since it's about Oppenheimer, should be the most focused and clear because it is very important to the story and those characters were the closest to him, but there was nothing there. The rest of them, like the Matt Damon character, they're like, you know, they're work partners kind of. All of that stuff worked really well. Yeah.
It did. And again, to Matt Damon's credit,
Those two worked together well, too.
Yeah.
They just kind of looked...
And that's why, it's almost like Oppenheimer was like a straight man in a way for other people to play off of almost, because I didn't
Matt
feel
Damon?
like Oppenheimer himself as a character was like he was kind of the straight guy that he was, because he's kind of neutral. He's tense, but he's kind of neutral at the same time throughout the film, it seems like. I mean, you get the sense that there's a lot going on in his head, but he's not, I wouldn't say he's very expressive.
I think that's intentional, but I
know, but it's kind of to me.
He didn't get his Mark Buffalo scene, John. Is that what you're complaining about?
I know he didn't get a Buffalo scene.
Yeah. I think the last shot was his Buffalo scene where he had the most internal. He's like kind of crying. You can kind of see he's about to cry, and he's like zooming in. You're like, see, he's about to cry.
A little watery, a little water. Yeah. Anyway, Anyway, what else you got, Denny?
What a cast. Like, holy shit, this is going to go down as like an all-time cast. It was fun. Dude, when Matt Damon came in, I was like, hey, Matt Damon. And then freaking Casey Affleck came in later. I'm like, fuck yeah, Casey Affleck.
I know, where was that? Yeah. I know, and that came out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting him even to be in it. I didn't know he was in it, so.
And I thought that Truman could be Gary Oldman, and it was. I mean, there's a bunch of really small parts, like Kenneth Branagh is in this.
Kenneth Branagh is Niels Bohr, but
cast is insane. It was just fun.
Yeah, it is.
I almost clapped when Casey Affleck came on. I was like, they're bringing more on. We're like 2 hours into the movie. Like, keep them coming.
Like, how much money did they spend on these people? Right.
Everyone took a cut. Like, specifically, was it, I wrote this down. Matt Damon, Robert Downey Jr., and Emily Blunt all took pay cuts. They all got paid $4 million for each of their roles, or each of them get between 10 and 20 million per movie normally, because they're A-listers. Huh. Matt Damon was actually on a movie break, and he told his wife, he's like, hey, I'm on a break. Don't worry about it. The only thing that'll bring me out of the break is if Christopher Nolan gives me a call. And guess what?
There he is.
Yeah, he must have heard that Nolan was putting together a super massive cast for one of his new movies.
It was still, I think even, I mean, everybody,
I thought the music was great throughout. I thought the manipulation, it did. I'm going to watch this movie a bunch because I really thought it was entertaining.
Oh, I'm never watching this one again.
For you.
I really liked it.
I'm never watching this one again.
I was manipulated in a way where I was enjoying the tense, what it was pushing on me. I liked it. You know, I could see how if you didn't like it, you could see like this movie's trying to make me feel things that I don't feel, and fuck you for trying to make me feel that way. I usually hate that too. But if it's working, then like,
if it works, if you go with it, then you're like, okay, movie, I'm coming with you. That's great. No, it's good.
And I was pretty sure like that bomb scene, you're saying it wasn't tense or anything. I was extremely tense, even though I knew what was going to happen. It's like, they're going to explode the bomb. Like,
I loved how they did that.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite parts of the movie.
That whole scene
was how they built up to the explosion and did silence.
Yep.
First.
Yeah.
I thought that was
like,
fantastic.
Akira. This is like Akira.
I was like, first of all, not sure if that's true science or not. Probably is. Makes sense, right? It's far away. You're so far away. The sound hasn't hit yet, right? Boom. Perfect. That's fine. Cool. But I would never have expected a movie to try to do that, right? As like the finale. I thought I was very much tricked. I was expecting it to just go boom, and that was it, and it didn't. And I really liked it. I thought that was a fantastic scene.
I was nervous when it went quiet because I was like, "Oh shit, there's going to be an explosion, and we're all going to jump." When it happens.
Dude, even though they showed it 3 times, I jumped every time. By the way, I blocked my head like it was coming.
Yeah,
like
dude, I was sitting there. Like I was sitting there with my hand over my ear, just like block some of the sound. Like, oh fuck, it's coming.
I know. Yeah, that was parts. This is where I've had such mixed feelings though, because I was visually and auditory like that stuff was fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I was loving just the sounds, the way that they had the low end, just the way they would intercut some random shit, like the fact that they were smashing their feet and they had that in like the middle of the movie, but you didn't know why. And then it all came in later. It was really cool editorial stuff going on there. But the amount of characters was tough to keep up with. The dialogue I thought was just so expositional. I mean, nothing but exposition. Every goddamn scene was something that they had to tell us about because they had to deal with 20 years of fucking
That's
stuff.
what the point of the movie is, right? To kind of tell you the history.
So like there's all this stuff. And then having to cut back and forth between the B story of Strauss, I didn't find it fun at all. I didn't like it. I didn't think Robert Downey Jr. was that awesome. I think he was decent. But again, it was weird that it would go to black and white and then it would come back and there wasn't really a reason for it.
And also, it flashed forward to black and white, but then sometimes it went back to black and white too, right? There wasn't really like the future wasn't black and white.
There was intention behind it. It was
but
just,
there was,
we're going to separate the stories because it's clear now that it's an audience. You can't fuck this up. These are two separate people, two separate stories.
But they planned, so at the very least there was intention there. I'm not sure what the intention is, but they filmed those black and white scenes in this brand new film format of black and white 70 millimeter. They've never done 70 millimeter black and white before.
So they couldn't go back.
They couldn't go back. They planned those scenes for the edit beforehand. They had to have because they filmed all those scenes in black and white. And if it seemed to me whenever there was a time jump, it would switch between black and white. So like if the past is in color, if it jumps forward, it goes black and white. If it goes to the middle story, it goes back to color. But then if it jumps forward again, it goes to color. You know what or did that make sense what I just said?
I don't think so. But if that's the calculations you're doing in the middle of the movie, again, too much for me.
I couldn't figure it out. Sometimes the future ones were in color. I was like, where's the black and white?
I stopped trying. I mean, there was a lot of that kind of stuff that was bothering me. The amount of time it took to, I can't watch movies that long. I don't care. Like, give me an intermission. I need to get up and stand in order to be able to think about what I'm watching. Like, it's too much. There was too much info for people that don't know the story too. Like, trying to keep up with all of the information was difficult.
The names,
I mean,
some of the scenes with the names was pretty tough.
Yeah, and the names and the things, and they're going back and forth between all these different science terms that are they're like layman's science terms, and there's still too many of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think I found myself kind of in awe, though, of like how they were trying to dumb it down. I was trying to like pick up on like, okay, they're explaining some really just difficult stuff, but they're doing it in a way that sort of makes sense. I think, and like I was having those kind of thoughts a lot, like, and then realizing that I needed to just go along with it. But I thought that the thing was all over the place. I mean, it was all over the place. The movie was just scatterbrained. It was like an ADHD person was doing the edit all the way through, and they fucking threw some shit up there sometimes that just seemed to work right. Biggest gripe of the movie was when they were fucking having the conversation on the horse. It finished the conversation from them somewhere else. That pissed me off. I don't know what it was, but I was like, I
laughed when that happened.
I nudged my girlfriend. I go, they're still talking about it? Like, nobody ever in the history of the world is going to have a conversation about that they were having over the course of 2 separate days. Mind you, in the middle of a horse ride. So that was like the one thing that really bugged me. I
love that because Christopher Nolan thought about that because he's not an idiot. He's just like, we're gonna fuck with the audience. We're just gonna have a hard cut and it's gonna travel a day and a half, but it's gonna be the same exact conversation. Watch this.
Yeah, right. Like as if they've just been rehashing it for the last 24 hours.
Or if like at the end of the first shot of the 2 shots, they're just like, shh. Let's continue this tomorrow.
Yeah. You know what? We're going to start this again in the morning.
Yeah. I'll write it down.
Right. There were moments where I found myself completely stuck on the screen and being like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Right. And then there were other times I was just like, Jesus fucking Christ, why? Like, I don't care about this character. We don't even need to hear what this character has to say. And then I'd be like, did we need to hear what we really didn't need to know what that character just said, right? Like, there were some of those moments where I was like, damn, they could have cut some of this out and I still would have been in the same place with the story and with the background. right? Had not having any fucking clue. Like literally, I felt more embarrassed that I don't know the story than I was learning anything from what they were showing me. You know, it almost made me want to go think about learning about it in just in general, because I had no clue that there was even this much drama around this person back then. It never even, you know, because you learn about these things in school.
Right.
You don't learn about the buildup. You only learn about the aftermath. So you would think that would be a good thing for this movie to like accomplish, but I don't know if it did that very well. I don't think I left the theater knowing more about it than I did when I came in.
I think I did. And so what I really appreciate about this movie is kind of the practicality of the science that they're doing. Like it kind of removes the magic and mystery. Cause I agree with you. Like I'm not a, you know, physics PhD or whatever you need to be to understand what the fuck they're talking about. But, you know, I have gone to school and I do work with engineers, and just like how, you know, there's always one of the parts I related to the most was where they were talking about like, well, how do we know the calculation is going to work? And then Oppenheimer turned to the guy, like, well, they're your calculations. Like,
I know.
We're going to use yours now. It's kind of like, there's always a point where it's like, well, I'll do these numbers, I'll do some math and I'll present an idea. There's always a point as like, you know, a scientist or maybe an engineer where you're like, well, put up or shut up. Now is the time to test. How sure are you? How smart are you? You know, like, are you confident in everything that you're doing? Sort of thing. And there's like a real uncertainty, even with like these smartest people in the world being like, I don't know.
That's what the coolest thing about, or one of the really, really cool things about this time in physics was that the way they studied it is they couldn't see the things they were studying. They could only look at different interactions or like see the responses of these things. You know, like, oh, we'll put a beam of something through this material and how it reflects will tell us something about how light works. Or and they couldn't see any of these things, so they have to then like fill in the blanks. They're like, well, if it's a bunch of particles, it's going to behave this way. If it's a wave, it's going to behave this way. And then they would just construct experiments around that, because they couldn't actually see atoms. They couldn't actually, you know, so they basically had to come up with ways to try to figure out what's there or isn't there, based on how they can get things to react in the lab. And so they never knew a lot of this stuff. And that's what is really like fascinating about the actual history and what they were doing. Because a lot of it was, yes, there was a lot of math, but then there was a lot of just actual experiments that they would do. And they weren't like,
but see, we didn't get any of that.
We did. They talked about how
discussions.
No, they were like, you can't always do everything in your.
You can't.
No, they said that in the movie. It's like it's not all theory. Sometimes you have to go into the lab and just test things.
They do.
Sort of.
And it's what's really cool when you like. I can name some books when we get to book corner, but it's really cool too, because one of the things that they would have to do is they would come up with an explanation for why something works, and if it fits, then it would become accepted. It isn't necessarily that they prove it's there. It's just like, oh, we have this explanation and it fits these results that we're seeing. And they don't know that that's really what's happening, but that's the way it advanced in a lot of ways.
They can get it to happen that way because of how they've been measuring
and then, oh, we have this explanation, and that explanation would then predict that this happens. And then somebody goes and tests whether that happens or not. And if it does happen, then
we know that we were in the right ballpark.
Then that idea is more accepted and more adopted. Right. That still doesn't mean that they're right, because they can't see the things. They don't know for sure. They're just able to like test interactions and stuff like that to figure it out. And one of the other sort of really interesting things was that you had Einstein, who came up with a theory of relativity and everything like that. That was explaining physics at a larger scale, at a macro scale. How like planets and stuff interact, how light works in a way that we can see in some ways. When you go to the atomic level, things stop making sense. Basically, like the explanations that you come up with no longer make sense at the quantum level. You have to say that, oh, this particle can be in this place or this place, and it will instantaneously move from one place to the other and won't cross the space in between. And that they would come up with that, and they say this has to be what it does, because that explains our experimental results.
Right.
And for a while, like Einstein was fighting quantum mechanics, saying, no, that's not how, when he talks about God doesn't play dice with the universe, things like that. He's talking about how he wants the explanations to make sense, to be reasonable, to be able to, like, that's what his theory of relativity was. Like, but also that it's not like he'd want things at the macro level to be the same, that there's a continuum between the micro level, the smaller levels, and quantum, and what you see in the real world. And again, I'm no physicist. I'm garbling
just
all
a
this.
guy. He's just a guy.
But it's
he knows.
really,
He's
really
a guy
cool
who's skimmed
stuff.
3 books. It sounds like
He's a guy who saw
I did,
Oppenheimer,
right.
and he knows
but
how
it was
fucking
like,
quantum
but like
physics works,
Einstein,
you know?
Einstein and Niels Bohr were like sort of they had these competing theories for a while, and Einstein was working to sort of disprove what Niels Bohr was saying because Niels Bohr was working at this quantum level. And it's funny when you like listen to quotes from the people that are like coming up with these quantum theories, where like Niels Bohr they'll say like, this makes no sense, and if you listen to this and you think it's reasonable, then you don't understand what I'm saying, because a lot of the things that happen at the quantum level make no sense, but they explain the theory, they explain the results. And so they basically have these ideas where things are behaving in no way that you would expect any physical object to ever behave, but it explains the results that they're getting. And it turns out that they're right in a lot of this stuff. So it's that whole part of cool. Is really cool. And it would be great to, again, there's some books I can recommend when we talk about it later, or I can talk about it now.
Just recommend them.
Just recommend now. So
keep the carrot on a stick. No, keep it at the end.
Just fucking say them already.
So for like a really cool introduction to this and other topics, it's an older book now, but it's very readable, and there's like a bit of humor in it. It's a short history of nearly everything by Bill Bryson. Is really good at covering not just some physics stuff, but life, evolution, age of the earth. And what he does with each of these things is he talks about how the ideas developed, and how they were discovered, how they are improved upon. Like, people used to think the earth was only this old, and then all kinds of other things happened, and they figured out that it was much, much older than that, and so forth, and how the ideas developed. So it's pretty cool, and he does that in a number of chapters for different topics. And one of them is physics, and one of them is the age of the earth, and various things like that. That's a really good kind of starter book to get into some of this stuff. The other 2 books that I did, again, yes, not having any time, basically, was skimming.
I saw
really
the headlines of and wrote down. Yeah.
Right. But the other 2 books, the one is The Making of the Atomic Bomb by Richard Rhodes, and that's kind of like considered like the classic book that basically covers everything. That starts with the physics, the physicists early on, and the different ideas that they developed that led to the bomb, including a lot of Oppenheimer stuff later on. But it's not as easy to read, and it jumps all over the place. And I think it helps if you already know some of the background, because again, there's a lot of names and a lot of stuff that's going on. But
good thing we do now.
Now you'll have a bit. It's very, very, very well researched. And then the final one that I started to read parts of, which is also really good. It's a book called Quantum, and it's by Manjit Kumar. And Quantum is about Einstein and Bohr and the great debate about the nature of reality. So in this book, Quantum, they really are talking about the theory of relativity versus quantum mechanics, and how that conversation, how that sort of like evolved. So he goes in a lot of detail about what Einstein did, and then Niels Bohr coming along and sort of the different physicists that were involved in those different camps and the experiments that they did, and how their thinking evolved, and how they're like, oh, if we do this. It's just really, really cool, because it seems like there was a time of great excitement, and people seem to be getting Nobel Prizes right and left. And they would be like, they would hear this one theory, and there would be people thinking, that's outrageous, it can't be this way. And then other people would go and do experiments, and eventually they'd be like, oh yeah, I guess that's how it works. Well, that's weird. And it's really just cool how it's sort of like during that time it developed. They were still like working, again, just the idea that they were working with things they couldn't see. And coming up with just explanations. It wasn't numbers. It was just coming up with an explanation. And if the explanation fit, and then it predicted one thing, then it was like, oh, maybe that's it then. And it was just really cool. So it is this kind of, it's like philosophy and science at the same time, sort of, because they're doing just a lot of thinking and conceptualizing at the same time. And it's experimentation. And then there's the math stuff. And if you can put it into a mathematical equation that's predictive, then that even gives your idea even further weight, right? But it wasn't always the case that they were able to do that. So anyway, it is really cool stuff to kind of think about.
Thank God we didn't. You'd have to learn any of it during the movie, huh?
No. But some of it's there. It's hinted at.
It's going to blow up. That's all everybody wants to know. Is it going to blow up? When is it going to blow up? Right. And what's it going to look like?
But it is hinted at, and it would be. It's again kind of.
I like the collaborative aspect of it too. How the one guy that's a kind of a grumpy guy had the idea of like a small bomb and a bigger bomb sort of thing, and they're like, and then,
that's a good idea.
That's a great idea.
Right.
They're showing some of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And now we've just, this is also a statement on AI, right? Because that's the next nuclear, the thing of our time will be AI changing the world, whereas theirs was, the bomb.
Not if the writers and actors have anything to say about it. It won't.
They're not going to win this one, unfortunately.
We're not going to have movies.
Writer. I'm now a writer, supposedly, so allegedly.
You're getting
you're doing a bad job selecting your career.
Field.
Yeah.
That's all right. I'll have it.
That's right.
It's fine.
Yeah. It's very emo of you. Get started on a career that's dying.
Yeah, exactly. The Albert Einstein stuff was just outrageous, by the way.
Was it? I thought it was just almost nothing.
Did the whole movie theater laugh when he came on screen at the final one, when he popped up on screen and I forget what the thing was, but literally the entire
because they're like, what did he say to him? Kind of.
Yeah. No, there was some other point where he comes up in the shadows out of nowhere. I forget what's his name? Cillian Murphy's having a conversation with someone else, and then it cuts, and it's Einstein right there. And it was like, hey, wow. Oh yeah, perfect timing. Come on down. You didn't think the thing with Goebbels was weird too? I'm just in the middle of the forest walking around with Goebbels. No big deal.
That was supposed to be Goebbels?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
I did not pick up on that.
Yeah. He said his name, I thought.
Oh. Yeah. I remember hearing that name.
They were both in the woods and they're walking around, and then he's like, come with me. And then he leaves Goebbels there and he's looking up at the trees. And I
was confused by that. I didn't know who that was supposed to be.
Yeah, that was supposed to be Goebbels. He was meeting with he was meeting with the other people about the same thing, basically. But again, what random shit was that? Like, it just happened to be walking in the woods? I don't understand. Like, there was some
Einstein
contrived
used to walk
shit
in the woods all the time.
But there was contrived shit in there that would be too cute, too perfect. But it was like what it needed to get us to the next.
I guess so. Sometimes those character answers do seem very staged. Like even to like the Robert Downey Jr. character at the end, and he's got this snarky aide.
Yeah,
that's gonna play like, oh, you're an asshole. I'm gonna let everybody. I'm speaking for the audience here, showing you that I realize that you're an asshole or whatever.
Right. And it was that
was sort of hammered
get him,
yeah, right.
That's
how I felt. I was like, fucking get him. Yeah, this movie rules.
Right? You're with the movie at that point. It's okay, you're on board. But otherwise, it's like,
Rami Malek coming and shitting on Robert Downey Jr., telling the truth. I was like, fuck yeah, Rami Malek.
Get him.
It worked.
You almost did nothing this whole movie, but here you are. Here's your role. I thought you were just cast as a face. Thought it was weird.
No. He's got to say this stuff at the end.
Yeah,
waiting for you to get there.
Honestly, I would not go see this movie again, ever. And I would not really recommend it to others if they can't sit through 3 hours comfortably. But I do think that I'm happy I went to see it in theaters. I don't think you would get the same feelings.
Yeah.
From you need the big space, you need the huge fucking speakers, you need that larger than life sound, and I do think the 70 millimeter stuff looks fantastic. So very much mixed feelings on this one. I heard people leaving the theater behind me like, that was the best movie I've ever seen. And then like 2 seconds later, I'd hear someone else being like, that movie fucking sucked. So it was like, I just, both people, I was about to speak up and be like, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. So that's when I kind of knew that I didn't have those feelings, either one. I didn't have, it's the best movie of all time. And I definitely didn't have, it's the worst. So, I'm kind of left in the middle here, wishing that it was more than it was. And I just don't like starting with flashbacks or exposition. It's just something that's always bothered me, but it was also, I totally understand that they had
I know they
so
had it,
much
but
time
I don't
cover,
understand that. Yeah, I still don't understand why that had to be there in the beginning. It didn't help me. I don't know. Supposedly that's to help you get to know the character or something, but it really isn't. It's more about setting up the what's going to happen towards the end.
Oh yeah, no, that whole first prologue, if you will, was all exposition just to get us associated with all the different characers. Yeah, I mean, there's just so many of them.
I know.
And they had to introduce them quickly,
right,
so that they could get to that next phase. But like, the movie didn't start for like an hour and a half. Basically, because it was all set up. Yeah, it was all set up. Like
it was the movie it's a biography.
No, but I'm just saying the movie's story narrative didn't start until about an hour in because they had all the exposition of the beginning stuff, plus all the characters that they had to introduce. Once they got through that, Then they were able to go into the narrative, which was like, okay, now we're actually going to build the bomb. But that whole first part was like this intro after intro after intro.
Life.
And it took an hour.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't think that the movie was necessarily about the bomb. It was in there and it was in the middle. And it certainly went on a lot longer than after the bomb exploded. But I wasn't bothered by any of that introduction stuff because I felt like it fit because I felt like it was just Oppenheimer's life. Kind of going through, the school parts of his life.
All I got out of it was the introduction of a million characters.
I thought it was fun because all the characters were famous and it kind of fit because it was going through his life.
Yeah.
So it kind of made sense that like when you live, you meet a lot of people. And if you're important and smart like this guy, then you meet important, famous people.
Yeah, but
I can see where you're coming from. But for some reason,
hour of like scene after scene after scene of new person.
I would have been happy if it was 3 hours of that. I was enjoying that.
I was not. I'd call that a prologue. I don't like it. I don't like it.
I like the way the town they built looked really good.
It did.
It did look good.
Yeah.
It did.
The New Mexico scenery was beautiful.
Ghost Ranch. Do you know where that is, John?
Stuff. No.
But
that's where I lived in Albuquerque for like a year and a half or so. All I remember is lots of drunk drivers. Really good food. Really good, like red and green
Tex-Mex.
chili. Yes. Yeah.
Good scenery, like in this movie. Good.
Yeah, beautiful sunsets. Always had beautiful sunsets there too. So like the red skies. But that's all. Anyway, yeah, I agree. Cinematography is great. And it's great that this is part of a cultural thing. It's part of a big summer. Everybody's going out to see this film. That's great. I mean,
it's the last movies that we might see.
Seriously, yeah. We have Dune coming out soon. That's it.
Yeah,
then it's just going to be nothing.
Yeah. It's going to be blank for a bit.
Yeah.
So, which is
although today they're going back to the table, I guess.
Oh,
yeah. There was.
We're going to get a lot of good. Maybe we'll get a lot of indie films.
Yeah, there was news that the writers and the studios are now going to meet. Okay. So that's a good sign.
Yes,
it's something.
Someone's got to write the award ceremonies, right? The writers and the actors both want awards, and if there's no writers to write the ceremony, they're not going to get their fucking
do that with an LLM.
Yeah, they'll move on. They'll be fine.
I don't know.
I think they're more worried about their points
money?
and their monies than they are the awards. Yeah. The awards are more for the studios, I think, in my opinion. But it's to show off how well they've done.
Yeah, I'm going to predict this movie wins Best Cinematography at the very least. It's going to get nominated for Best Picture. It's going to probably get like 4 or 5 different acting awards. I'm not sure who they're going to pick. I think they're probably going to pick Cillian Murphy for whatever reason. I thought he was good, but like I agree with John. He was kind of a one note. I thought it worked, especially for his character, but it wasn't like overly.
It's also 3 hours of one note, so it's
I still don't get sick of watching him in that garb, whether it's Peaky Blinders or this. I mean, he's just
nice suit with the top hat, kind of an Indiana Jones,
like sharp dressed guy,
right? It works. Yeah, it just works for him.
Yeah. Matt Damon was good, but it was kind of a comical role, so probably nothing there. Robert Downey Jr., I agree. I thought he was fine. The makeup was good, but like his acting, I didn't think was like
nothing
that
special.
Outstanding.
No, it was fine. Again, he had
it certainly wasn't his typical thing, which
No, and I appreciate. I like that. I've seen that
because
it does.
Other actors do that all the time.
I've heard that happens.
Yeah,
but it's impressive for me to see. I don't know. Just he's such a character actor playing his own character the whole time. That it's neat to see it. It's neat to see him just go in for it and not even try to be, not a hint of snarkiness or smirkiness. I really like that. Like that, because I don't know, it's like even, Harrison Ford, some of these other real character actors that we have, they're them basically. And it's great. We like them for that. Right. So I don't know. I liked it.
And I can see Emily Blunt getting a nomination too, even though
really? She was a dramatic role. She did good with what she had, but I agree. Once you really pointed out, Denny, it does make a lot of sense. There's no consistency to it, but in each of those scenes, she was good.
Yeah,
and likewise,
I'm sure she did a fantastic job given the direction she was given. Right, like she was.
What am I, an alcoholic now? Okay,
all right.
Wait, now I'm not.
Why?
Now I'm
Don't
smart?
ask questions. Okay, I'm your puppet. Right. I'll do whatever you say, Christopher.
Okay. All right. In this scene, you're smart. Okay. Not in that one. Now you're just drunk. Okay.
So they filmed this in real locations. They filmed it in Princeton and in Berkeley, both of those schools. Los Alamos. I don't know where that is, but probably somewhere close to LA. TC, does that ring a bell? Doesn't sound like
Couldn't tell you.
And they also Oppenheimer's cabin is restored and it exists, and they filmed the movie there too for those scenes.
Nice.
Ooh.
They didn't have. So this is Christopher Nolan talking. I don't know if I buy it, but he says there's absolutely no computer-generated imagery in this movie.
No.
I think these days, computer-generated imagery is tough to say you don't have it because everything goes through a computer.
Right.
To some extent.
So no processing.
And they're definitely...
There's gotta be processing.
They're removing wires and they're removing
what he might be saying
right?
is
but he's
no
not saying like
CGI. Like
built
there's
on top of it.
Right.
Yeah.
He's saying, so I'm pretty sure what he's saying, one of the quotes is that there's no CG shots, which means the entire shot is CG. But then some other things that I've read where he says is there's no CG imagery, which just means there's no CG within the shots.
Right.
So one is a lot
just means
less rare than the other, but it sounds like there was no, like every single thing you see was done practically and then digitally composited and then, digitally mastered and whatever.
Clean up or whatever, yeah.
But that's kind of sweet because there's a lot of like special effects. The fire looked real. Some of the quantum stuff looked like they could have been CG, but apparently they weren't.
Yeah, I guess that's an interesting point. I just assumed that stuff was, unless it was like, what was it, animated then, I guess? Just sort of.
They did weird digital
like
tricks.
Water stuff.
They built what they called bigatures, which is the opposite of miniatures, where they, for all the quantum stuff, they just built very large models to make you seem small. So like the little rings, the little electron ring they had showing there, where it was like wobbling around. It was probably just a giant light. And they they didn't explain exactly what it was, but I mean, everything was practical and just composited. When they were casting, none of the people. Sorry, TC, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's nice and cheap.
Yeah, and I think there
saves them a bunch of money to pay the actors.
Yeah, there's something that is really fun about this, whether it's Damon or Robert Downey Jr. or these people that are just it's like your old friends are all showing up and behaving slightly differently, and there's something really fun about that. Like it's just,
like The Irishman. It's like that movie was okay, but hey, look at that! It's all my favorite actors from the 80s and 90s. Yeah,
being a badass. That's nice, right? So so there's definitely that feeling. It makes me maybe even overreact. It's not necessarily that it's good acting. It's more like these are some old friends of mine or something like that. Hey, look at you! All right, you go. Sort of.
And who doesn't love Matt Damon? Come on.
Come on. He's good.
It's another Christopher Nolan movie where Matt Damon pops in kind of later on in the movie. Did you notice that this movie... Oh, we didn't talk about one of my favorite scenes in the movie. TC kind of mentioned it. It was when like the feet were stamping, but the scene where it was on his face when he was having the panic attack or whatever it was. And the sound also goes away. And the background of him is like, it's like wobbling.
It's wobbling.
Yeah.
And then he starts having the flashback and everyone's face goes white. But that scene of the wobbling behind him, that was in Batman Begins. Because Cillian Murphy was the Scarecrow in Batman Begins. And when he gives people the drugs, it shows his face most of the time with a mask on, but I think one time without it. And Christopher Nolan uses the same effect where the background goes, whoa, whoa, whoa. Same exact thing. So
cool.
Stole a shot from Batman Begins in this movie.
Repurposing
it was
his
really an homage to himself. Really.
Yeah. Because why not?
Yeah.
You have to take from the best, right? Who said that? Somebody said that. You got to steal from the best.
Probably him.
Especially if it's yourself.
Yeah.
That's right.
But that scene was really good. I thought the soundless. Fuck you, John. That scene was like really frightening.
Where their skin peels off,
their skin peels off, and there's a bright white flash,
and
the intercutting, the editing there of like them going back to people cheering, and some of it being soundless, and some of it like where the roar of the audience comes back in and shit. I thought that all that was really good. John's yawning right now because he's just the biggest asshole.
I'm a big asshole. Sorry.
I mean, by that time, I had to pee so bad. I was like, I don't care what happens next. Hurry and roll credits.
How much Diet Coke did you drink?
Oh, my God. I had fucking like a large root beer.
Oh, and you drank it all before the movie started, didn't you?
Oh, I had to pee an hour and 1 hour and 20 minutes.
We got a large popcorn and Junior Mints, and they were gone before the movie started.
Oh, wow. We only had maybe an inch of the popcorn and left the whole bucket. It was like, you get there and you're like a little kid. You're like, I want popcorn. I want Sour Patch Kids. Yeah. I'm going to get the large root beer. And then you sit down, you have them for like 2 seconds. You're like, I'm 40. My stomach hurts.
Yeah.
I might need to go to the restroom and we've got 2 more hours.
Well, with the popcorn, it's like the small is $10 and the large is $10.85. So you just like get the large, I guess.
Well, right. Yeah, right. We asked for large drinks and it was 44 ounces. And we were like, medium. Like, no,
So
we don't need
38 ounces
We
is
were
good enough for
looking
you?
at a cup that was large in my head, and it was medium because she had to go back and get the plastic 44 ounces. I was like, no.
We don't keep these out front. It's not
we
safe to
don't-
keep in the public view.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
We
right.
can't let the kids
Yeah,
have
we
them.
can't let the kids see this even. So, yeah, I was happy when they rolled credits so I could run.
That makes sense. The cast, when they were being cast and when they were doing tryouts, didn't know what roles they were trying out for. They just knew it was the, Oppenheimer type of movie based on the book written in 2005. And they knew it was Christopher Nolan. And that was it. That's how secretive it was. I'm not sure what that gets you, but they did that anyway. Christopher Nolan worked with Warner Brothers for a very long period of time. I think it was like 20 plus years. He exclusively worked with Warner Brothers. But when he made the movie Tenet and the pandemic happened, Warner Brothers did some pretty fucked up stuff that he didn't like in terms of releasing Tenet in the theaters at the same time as HBO Max, which takes away from your box office. He wants people to see these movies in the theater. That's what he wants. He's one of two guys who is keeping 70 millimeter alive, keeping film alive. He loves film. He loves the theaters. It's obvious. It's like one of the things he's most known for, I think, for movie nerds. But when they did that, he was pissed. It was still one of the highest grossing movies of the year, but it definitely would have made more if it wasn't also on HBO Max. So he was mad at them. So he kind of left them and optioned the movie out to different studios. Paramount was written off the list because they have similar streaming practices, I guess, where they release movies on their platform at the same time as theaters, which he didn't want. But Universal won out. They still do theaters. He also wrote in his contract that this movie needed 90 to 120 days in theaters exclusively, that Universal couldn't release any other movies 3 weeks before or 3 weeks after this movie.
Wow.
And that the marketing budget got minimum the same amount as the production budget, which was $100 million. So that, just stopping there, that math, as difficult as it may be, $100 million production, minimum $100 million for marketing. It's been written that this movie had a overall budget of $400 million. Does that mean they spent $300 million on marketing on this movie? Is that even possible to spend 3 times as much on marketing as the movie itself?
Probably.
It seems absurd.
But usually it's like, I guess so the total budget, 100 million for production. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible that they spent it all on marketing. Billboards all over the place.
Crazy.
Commercials in each region.
300 million.
Maybe it worked.
They've been advertising this movie for like almost a year. So maybe.
That's true.
And then, of course, the additional marketing they had to spend for the Barbie stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because they have to Barbenheimer it. It's like, shit, we need to, latch on to this because this is nuts. Whatever the fuck's going on here.
They probably pivoted and added to the budget real quick.
Well, here we are. We're going to have to go see the other one now. It's a 1-2 punch. Everybody's happy.
And then what else was I saying about this? Oh, and also in the contract, he wrote in Christopher Nolan gets 20% of the film's first dollar gross, which I meant to look up what that means. First dollar gross. TC, do you happen to know what that means?
I mean, I would imagine it's opening money. Percentage of that.
It's a percentage of the box office revenue starting from the film's first day of release.
Wow.
So that's just 20% of the film's box office, flat out.
So if it makes 400 mil, there you go.
So it's not even profit. It's just box office. So he's getting 20% of that 425 million, and he's going to be a 200 millionaire after this movie at the very least.
He's happy. I mean, I'm sure he's doing fine already, but yeah.
Good for him. In the middle of a strike where the writers and the actors are getting nothing, the fucking one guy's getting 200 million. Yeah, there's nothing broken there. Nothing at all.
Nope.
And so, what's the total box office at now?
425 million.
Oh, so 20%, is that what you said?
Yeah.
So it's 85 mil.
Yeah.
Jesus. And that's just
climbing.
That's just that's now.
Mm-hmm.
That's not
in 2 months. This movie at the end of the year.
What a fucking racket. I'm sorry. And then
nobody needs $200 million.
And you've got writers that can't get $1,000 or something, and you've got other people.
And he's got the actors coming in working for cheap. And he's the one writing in for the fucking 20%.
Well, the thing is, when they usually do stuff for cheap, there's also some other stuff in their contract, so they might get residuals.
Yeah, they probably will. Yeah. Hopefully they get 0.5%. Each actor gets half. There's too many fucking actors. There's not that many percentages. Studio wants some of it too, I'm sure.
I mean, you're right. I mean, that's how it all goes, right? You think about it now, like if you're a writer-director and you write it and then you want to direct it, your writing manager takes 10%, your agent takes 10%, your
of what you take in.
Of what you take in total. Yeah. So like you're not really
He's got to feed the monkey is what you're saying.
Yeah, you're not really left with much.
Oh, he's only going to have like 150 million after all said and done. That's kind of sad, actually. I take everything I said back.
Hey. He's going to have to sell one of his 10 houses.
I mean, you figure, for a guy like Christopher Nolan, it's probably different. But
he's probably only going to be able to pay the actors $3 million next time.
That's right.
At this rate.
I mean, honestly, the way that these fucking assholes work these days, that's exactly right. That's exactly what they think. It sucks.
Sam Mendes almost directed this movie. He bought the rights back in 2005 when this book came out. You know, Sam Mendes.
Oh wow. I don't know that.
He did like American Beauty, I think.
Okay.
And
what happened?
Road to Perdition. He did Jarhead instead, and then he just like lost interest in the rights, and then it kind of petered out. And
interesting.
Somebody ended up giving it was Robert Pattinson during filming of the Batman was into the book and ended up giving it to Christopher Nolan for some reason. Why would Robert Pattinson be talking to Christopher Nolan? I read it, but I can't remember. Anyway, they might just be friends or something.
Maybe.
I don't remember Road to Perdition. I don't think
Tom
I've seen
Hanks.
that one.
Tom Hanks and I forget
the
kid's name.
It's always nighttime.
Great.
It's always raining out, and it's a lot of like leather coats
what's
and top
his name?
hats.
Newman was in it. Newman.
Paul Newman?
Paul Newman. Before he died was in that one.
Oh, fuck. It's been a while since I've seen that one.
Yeah, he's the Irish mobster.
We could throw that one on as one of the bonus episodes.
I love Road to Perdition. Has fucking Dustin O'Halloran too on the soundtrack. That shit's one of the best fucking movies I've seen. I've watched it so many times.
Nice.
Really? I've never even.
Yeah. All right, we're throwing Road to Perdition on, folks.
Yeah.
Okay. At some point.
Thanks, John. Bringing up fucking.
So the soundtrack intentionally didn't have any drums in it because Nolan thought that drums are characteristically militaristic, and Oppenheimer's character was opposite of that. So they went with mostly violins instead. Also because it's very percussionless. Plus they can change from being like very pretty to very sad very easily with that instrument. That was.
I wonder if orchestras doing those dramatic soundtracks that they have like repetitive stress injuries because of those scenes. Like, especially before but somebody's just, I put these poor little violins are just going.
They're like professionals,
coming off of them. I know, but I just think.
They have a guy with a hose just standing behind him watering him down.
You're going to blow it. You're going to blow, Jimmy. I can't stop. The bomb isn't dropped yet. It's been 20 minutes. Hold it. You get hazard pay. It's going to be
so you're saying
thriller.
You were into the movie, John. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
It didn't carry you?
Sorry.
You just have Jimmy playing the violin too fast and smoking.
Yeah, poor Jimmy. He's got stunt pay in his fucking his contract.
Nobody gives them
He's
credit.
got violin elbow.
You lose your arm and you're no good to anybody. Nobody cares. You're gone.
Nobody cares.
Last piece of trivia I have. One reel or set of reels of IMAX film. An IMAX 70mm film, which there were 30 printed for this, so there were 110 70mm prints and 30 IMAX 70mm. The IMAX film itself is 11 miles long in total film, and it weighs 600 pounds.
Wow.
That's for one movie. One, set of
one
reels.
Full length
for this movie.
Yeah. Wow.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Those projections are just ripped. They're like before Oppenheimer, they're just working out. The theaters having to give them pay. They're probably insured hazard pay throughout your back.
I wonder how they have. I imagine it's all done with lifts.
Denny.
They've all got. It's all a machine.
It's a machine.
What do you
moving
think?
it around. Oh yeah, 600 pounds.
Well, I mean, it's just that's all of them.
Move that shit.
You just roll it, man. You just roll it down there.
Hey, man, don't worry. We got the best of the best.
It's a big wheel.
It's not one fucking reel of film. It's probably 10 reels of film, so they're probably 60 pounds each.
That's all, yeah.
You could lift 60 pounds.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's no problem.
You play the new Legend of Zelda game. You just get some sticks and you just put it all together and you just roll it down there. It's no big deal. Do it all the time.
Yep. On that note, top 250.
No.
Nah.
I'm going, yeah. Watch this movie fucking roll the Oscars this year, guys. Watch it.
Maybe.
It's gonna.
I mean, I feel like the fix is
What else is there? What else is there?
Dune?
I mean,
Dune for all the technical stuff might take
Dune,
it.
But it's a science fiction film, which
it got a lot of awards. I think it got
like
6 or 8 awards for the first one.
Yeah, but certainly not.
They got Hans Zimmer. So this one is God, what's his name?
But Dune was never going to be Best Picture last year. I mean, I don't think it would get some.
So the guy who did the score for Oppenheimer, so Hans Zimmer was the first choice, but Hans Zimmer's doing Dune too, so he doesn't have the time.
All right.
This guy is Ludwig Göransson.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Han was thought that Nolan was too restrictive. I'll use drums if I fucking want to. Screw you guys.
He's going to use bagpipe in his shit.
And tell me what music. Like, don't tell me what instruments to use. I'll come in there. I'll be tense. I can be tense. Sometimes you use drums. It doesn't have to mean it's military. Fine. I'll go do Dune. Science fiction. They don't care.
I don't know why, but this is tickling me.
All right. I got nothing else. You guys got anything else?
All right.
What are we doing next week?
What are we doing next week?
Are we going to watch Road to Perdition or are we going to see Barbie?
We got to do the 1-2
we got to do Barbie.
Yeah,
I'm down. You guys ready to go to the theaters again?
You're seeing it anyway. I'm seeing it anyway.
I'm gonna go early next week with my mother because she's dying.
Well, there we go. See, I'll do Barbie.
We're doing Barbie. Barbenheimer. Look at us.
Hey.
We're doing Oppen.
We're Narby.
We're doing the opposite. We're doing Oppenheimer first.
Yeah.
Oppen Barbie. Yeah.
Barbin something.
Yeah. Don't forget to wear pink, guys. You got to wear pink.
What?
You got to be sparkly when you go see the movie.
Dress up for a movie?
Oh, you dress up for Barbie.
Tell me how to dress.
You dress up for Barbie. Dude, when we left Oppenheimer on Saturday, we went in at like the matinee and it was like 3:00 and it was like busy with Oppenheimer people. By the time we came out, the entire theater was a fucking like a circus. It was just people dressed up waiting for Barbie, just screaming and running around the inside of the theater.
We don't live in California, buddy. We can't really do that here. And I don't know. But yeah.
CC lives in California.
People are really polite here.
Yeah.
You don't.
I tried to stay away from it.
No, I don't. I don't know. I just get funny looks. Nobody wears pink.
The Barbie movie, John, you'll find one person wearing pink. They might be 8 years old, but they'll be a person.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, look, they might be young. No one said they were old.
Yeah. Just go there. Right. Just go there. Take your wedding ring off. Wear pink. Go there by yourself as a middle-aged man, and then see what happens. You might have a good time.
Yeah, see what happens. And, let us know if you get on an ankle monitor after that.
Yeah. Go see that Barbie movie. There's gonna be a hotbed of single ladies there.
Yeah. All right. On that note,
anybody want to come sit by me back here? I got 2 seats. You don't have to sit right by me. You can
got
go
the
like
extra
one over.
large popcorn.
See you down there looking.
Hey, I got the 44-ounce plastic cup. Anybody want to hang out back here?
I got it. They gave me a 2-for-1. I don't know how it happened.
All right, boys. We'll see you later.
Talk to you guys next week.
All right. See you guys.